answer, your handle, and your mailing address to make sure that you definitely get the merchandise that we're giving away here. Arthur, I think you got the question for that, though, right?
I think I do. So the first trivia question of, I think, 3 today.
We got three of these packs we're giving away, and you saw them at the top of the broadcast.
So yeah, the first trivia question is, name all 7 Eevee evolutions in National Pokédex order. One more time so you guys heard. Name all 7 Eevee evolutions in National Pokédex order.
All right, so if you think you know the answer, email your answer to onthespot@gamespot.com. Provide the answer, your handle, your name handle, and the mailing address to make sure you can get one of these slick Pokemon World Championships 2012 prize packs. But now I guess you guys are. It looks like they're ready to start the third match here.
Looks like they are just about ready. So we saw an extra card for Igor game 1, which didn't actually end up helping him.
No, because they played N on turn 1. They kind of reset that. I would not be surprised. I bet we see a lot of those on... there it is again.
There it is again. So actually, this time Harrison's going to be up a card.
Absolutely, and it's more common when we see deck lists like this when they're only playing 10 Pokemon. No. It's much more likely you're not going to draw a Pokemon in your first hand.
No. And really quick to clarify, for handle, we want the GameSpot handle or the GameSpot username for your account for that trivia question. So, shuffling again.
It might have been that both of them missed having any Pokemon. So at that point, nobody gets to draw an extra card, and they just start over.
And you have to have no Pokemon. You can't decide that you don't want this Pokemon out to start with, so you're going to start with a new hand.
If you have a basic Pokemon, that's the hand you have to play with.
So this time it looks like Igor does have a Pokemon to start with. He's getting his 6 prize cards there, and so does Harrison. So looks like we are good to start this time. Again, those cards on the side of the screen there are the prize cards. You get to draw 1 for knocking out an opponent's Pokemon, or 2 if that Pokemon is an EX.
I'm just going to butt in here. A lot of comments in the chat was basically wondering how you could register. If you go to GameSpot.com, you could register to be a GameSpot user for free. So if you are not a GameSpot subscriber, go ahead and register, and you can enter to win the Pokemon prize pack.
So yeah, starting out, it looks like we have a Darkrai and a Mewtwo.
Mewtwo EX.
Harrison starting off with an Eviolite on the Darkrai, which does not add to Mewtwo's damage. It's only energy. It's not attached cards.
It's correct. Only energy. And he immediately plays Professor Oak's New Theory. So he played the 2 cards that he wanted out of his hand, and then he's going to turn it over and see 7 new cards.
Yeah. 6 new cards?
6 new cards.
Yeah, Professor Oak's New Theory is shuffle your hand into your library and draw 6 new cards.
That's correct.
If he hadn't played the Eviolite, he just would have shuffled it in, so there's no cost for him playing it there. It's a pretty good start, and he gets to see 6 new cards for something he wants. Maybe some energy, maybe some more Pokemon.
And the way that Mewtwo hits, any way that you can slow that Pokemon down, Eviolite makes a lot of sense to put it on Darkrai EX. Right. Now or later, it's a valuable card.
And he's got a Dark Energy. It looks like a basic Dark Energy.
Yes.
I think
but he'll require 3 energy before he can play his Darkrai EX's attack Night Spear.
Right. And that's the one that deals 90 to the defending Pokemon and 30 to a bench Pokemon.
That's correct.
So we see, was that Professor N? Or not Professor N,
that was N.
Supporter N?
That was N. And so they're both going to shuffle 6 in.
Yep.
It looked like maybe Harrison showed the 6 cards that he had, just to say, just to show
I
Igor.
Got nothing,
yeah,
right?
Exactly. That it benefited him as much as it benefited Igor.
And that's more of the mind game stuff.
A little
you
bit.
Want your opponent to think that whatever they're doing is helping you just as much. You killed my Pokemon? That's fine. I don't want him anyway. He's knocked out.
Pokemon, there's also sort of a camaraderie when they play. They like to talk about what they've done and what they're playing, and if it doesn't hurt, I think that Harrison doesn't mind showing them. They know what each other have in their decks in general, so it's not a surprise what Harrison could be tossing away.
Right. At this point, it seems like they've seen most of their opponent's decks just through this.
Right.
The discarding 7 and drawing 7 more helps.
Yes.
And I suspect that each of them have a support team that's kind of talking about what they expect to see.
These players spend a lot of time discussing decks and talking about strategies online, and as well as when they come here, they've been playing all weekend. So they're well tested. They know what strategies work. They'll try new strategies, and very quickly they will go on and develop other strategies.
If you can't hear that cheering from the back, I suspect that means we have a world champion for one of the other divisions. We're still waiting on the Masters, though, which is what we've got the video coverage on. So we've got still Mewtwo facing down Darkrai, and yeah, that is. So that's the juniors division has been determined.
Yes.
And that's juniors is under the age of 11, right?
It's under. It's around under the age of 12. Shutogaki is a repeat world champion from Japan. He's fantastic.
Yeah. So for those of you who I've heard some chatter from the not here for the tournament beachgoers this weekend about how it's just about luck. I think repeat world champions is a pretty solid indication that there's a heavy amount of skill involved in this.
There are
really fast. Here we see Ultra Ball getting rid of a couple cards, looking for a Pokemon.
Right.
Ultra Ball gets you any Pokemon at all, including an evolution, but there are no evolutions in these decks, just basics.
Right.
Part of the reason for discard is you sometimes want to put stuff in your discard pile to attach with, for example, Dark Patch.
Right, exactly. Putting that Darkness Energy works out perfectly for Harrison's plan here. I wouldn't be surprised if he goes for a Smeargle here.
Or is he finding it, or is he? Nope. So he's decided on finding a Mewtwo.
Mewtwo, you said. Yeah. Oh, but he still had a Smeargle in his hand. That's
so what he discarded there was the Darkness Energy, which we'll be able to use later, and a supporter. And since he is playing Professor Oak's New Theory this turn, he couldn't have used that supporter anyway. It would have simply been shuffled in. So he's discarding 2 cards, but it's not really costing him anything to do so.
Looks like it.
So he's going to see 6 new cards off Professor Oak's New Theory. We'll see if we can see those cards as he pulls. Nope. I don't know. He doesn't seem that excited about it.
Definitely playing tentatively. I think maybe the, knowing that this is a sudden death match, maybe these guys are playing a little bit more cautiously.
So he is subbed in Smeargle. Is he going to...
So there's the Dark Patch that he got rid of via the Ultra Ball so that he could put another energy back onto Darkrai.
So that's a pretty good turn there. Darkrai's now on 3 energy, so he can use his Dark Spear attack.
That's right.
He's using... So this is the Pokebody, or the Poke ability. So he's getting...
Poke Power.
Power, that's the one. So he's getting another supporter this turn.
Right.
Getting even more cards. At this point, he's already attached energy this turn. He's already played his own... supporter. He's looking for maybe another Eviolite.
I wouldn't be surprised if he's looking for maybe a switch now that he has the energy he needs to attack with Darkrai. He's already retreated once to get Smeargle up, so now you can only retreat from your active position once, but you can use a switch Pokemon to switch their positions as for as many of those cards that you have.
So the retreat is the rules ability. You do it once. You can play cards that break the rules as many times as you want per turn.
That affect the same thing as retreating.
Really quick, I'd like to congratulate Everett R, handle Hyronic EX from Middlebury, Vermont, who has won our first swag package. He'll be getting a bunch of cool exclusive to Kona, Hawaii World Championship stuff. Congratulations, Everett. So looking at the match again, I'm seeing lots of consideration from both players here now.
Yeah, this is especially Igor looks like he's a little bit slow to get energy out. We'll have to see if he can get that Mewtwo up and running. Mewtwo loves as much energy as it can get on it.
Yep.
So he's chosen to play Professor Oaks as well.
Looking for energy, I would assume.
Probably.
So, and I think that might be a second determination.
Right.
Maybe the seniors division.
It looks like Chase Maloney in the seniors division is going to be the world champion.
So now we are just waiting on these guys to finish up to have all 3 of our world champions for the trading card game. And we will go over them, maybe some background on them after this match is over.
Okay.
So it looks like he's still maybe a little light on energy. Igor has chosen to play only 14 energy in his deck. kind of a distribution among dark, double colorless, prism energy. Harrison on the other end is on 13 energy, 1 less, but he has 4 copies of double colorless instead of 3, and particularly for the EXs that hit so hard when they have that energy, double colorless can be very, very strong.
All Mewtwo EX needs for its X-Ball attack is 1 double colorless energy, and it can do 40 damage, and then every extra one that he puts on there is going to do a lot more damage.
Right. So I think perhaps Igor has hedged his bets. He's running the fighting Pokemon, which is good here, but it means it's only good against the Darkrai decks, or best against the Darkrai decks.
Right, but Igor is also playing the Tracheon, so that's why he's got the Prism energy
and the fighting energy,
so that he can take out that Darkrai. Now we haven't seen Tracheon be especially effective in this match.
Yet.
In the match, and hasn't been present at all in the game.
So yeah, that was another random receiver, which is you look until you see a supporter.
Right.
All of the supporters that are in either of these decks are more card draw, so it's just even more card draw. Follow it up with an N, who is, at this point still, both players getting 6 new cards.
Unlike Smeargle, random receiver, you aren't required to play the card that you get. So even though he got N, he didn't have to play it right away.
It puts it in your hand, right?
Exactly.
And so you could, in fact, play it later on if you wanted to.
If it was the
it
card
isn't a decision.
If it's the card you didn't want, then you're fine. Yeah. It looks like, peeking at Igor's hand, he did get quite a bit of energy. He might choose to start attacking with X-Ball right away. We'll see.
Be helpful, but he's already kind of a bit behind, and you can't play all of the energy. You can play 1 energy per turn from the rules, and then you also have cards that let you attach energies. Things like Dark Patch, which lets you attach a dark energy from your discard pile, or some abilities of some Pokemon let you attach additional abilities.
Right.
So is it Celebi that has the attach 1 Pokemon power, the CMT decks?
Yes, that's correct.
So, which I know some made the top cut for today, but none in the finals.
Although we didn't see as much of it as I was really expecting in the tournament. Part of it was, this deck tended to play very well against it, and so people went in this direction.
It seems like it worked well for him.
It did.
I was talking a bit earlier about kind of going one step beyond in the metagame and thinking not only what everybody's playing, but also what everybody is playing to beat what everybody is playing.
Right.
And it seems like that's what Igor is doing here with the fighting.
Right, exactly. That's why he has Tracheon in there. He hasn't gotten it working yet, but see, we're watching the random receiver again, where he flips cards till he gets
random
one.
Receiver.
Right, very.
A quick follow-up question from Famous Swan is, what's the difference between Senior Division and Masters Division? The way it works for the Pokemon Championships, World Championships, is there are 3 divisions: Juniors, Masters, and Seniors. Juniors is born between
97 and 2000, is that right?
So yeah, Juniors is born in 2001 or later.
Oh, that's right.
Seniors is 1997 through 2000, and Masters is born in 1996 or earlier.
Right.
So it's 3 age groups, and you play opponents within those age groups, both in the trading card game and in the video game.
Both of these players are in their late teens, but we have players in the Masters division that are much, much older, especially in our last chance qualifier where everyone's allowed to play. We'll get players of all ages competing.
Parents? Do we get parents
in? Absolutely.
And the parents are already here, right? Because they get a travel award with their competitor being qualified.
Exactly. So you'll see them playing as well. They get into it when their children get into it, and some of them are quite good.
That was, I think, a Pokemon catcher switching out the damaged Mewtwo for a Darkrai?
That's correct.
Is he going to try to take out the Darkrai here, or is he going to hope to switch out his own Darkrai and hit 490 and 30?
He might choose to do that because without any energy on Mewtwo at this point, even if he did have the double colorless, he wouldn't do enough damage to knock out the Darkrai. So it would be a risk to put a hard-hitting Pokemon up front that you aren't going to be able to take out.
So I saw a Pokemon catcher and then a trainer. So maybe he had to, he wants to get use out of it before he looks at 6 new cards.
Yeah,
maybe a little bit of a gamble.
Right. Let's see what he does here. So there's the double colorless.
So he could hit
for X-Ball.
60?
He could hit for, it looks like there's 2 energy on Darkrai, so he could do 80 damage at this point. Darkrai already has 30 damage So it would do 110. Oh, but then Shaman lets you move all that energy around. He just put 40.
So now we see
4
6
more
energy on
energy.
Mewtwo and 2 on Darkrai. So that's 160 damage?
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 is 120 damage.
Sorry, and then the 2 for Darkrai? So we've got 4, 6, 8.
Yeah, you're right. 160.
Which is enough to knock out Darkrai.
Absolutely. That is
Which is strong play.
strong play.
So I think he was maybe hoping to see that off end and got there.
That was the perfect time to play Shaman right there. He had energy on his bench. He needed it to get it onto Darkrai as quickly as onto Mewtwo as quickly as he could.
So is that? It looks like an Ultra Ball discarding 2 Dark Energy. No, that's a.
That's a plus power to.
No, it was a Trash Claw.
Junk Arm.
Junk Arm.
Yeah. And then Professor Juniper to discard his 7 cards, either his hand to draw 7 new cards.
Now here we see Harrison looking at the discard pile over here,
right.
Keeping an eye out for, worried about that same thing happening again,
right.
or perhaps even counting to see whether or not his opponent has got any given cards left.
Right.
Because once you've put them there to a certain extent, there's only one way to get them back. So.
Right. Especially special energy. Special energy. There are virtually no ways to get special energy back out of your discard pile. By most of the rules, you would only be able to get basic energy out.
Right. So knowing that your opponent's not going to jump a turn on you and get that double colorless could be
right.
very.
You can count your opponent's double colorless energy in the discard pile and know exactly how many they're playing.
And Igor is only on, again, 3 double colorless energy. So it's possible that Harrison is expecting 4 here and may make a mistake based upon that.
Maybe.
Or it's possible that Harrison knows that he's only on 3. We don't, they aren't officially given the deck lists, so they don't have any official knowledge of what's in their opponent's deck. It would only be unofficial based upon counting previously or some friends letting him know.
Right, and paying, they've played each other twice now. They've been paying a lot of attention to what the other person's doing. That's the kind of thing that they count while they're playing their first matches to be prepared in the future matches.
And then you can see the same opponent twice in an event. Like if you play an opponent day 1 before the cut, you might see them again after the cut.
In fact, Igor, Harrison lost twice. Is that right in the Swiss rounds?
Yeah, I believe his record was 5-2.
Right. Or was it Igor?
And I think actually he, both the people who beat him made the cut to day 2 as well.
I believe so, and I believe that Igor played a person that he lost in the preliminary rounds and beat in the elimination rounds. So he saw that player quite a bit.
Now that he's in the
right.
finals.
Obviously, he won in the right.
And part of that is once you've played somebody, if they have a surprising deck, something you're not expecting to see, after the first time, it's going to be a lot weaker for that sort of thing. So kind of the surprise angles and the tricky cards have less of an impact once you get to day 2, and even less once you get to the finals.
Right. And that's why the decks get a little bit more similar as you go on, because you go with what wins as opposed to what's going to be surprising.
So I think we see here a Ultra Ball discarding a supporter on a potion for a Mewtwo.
And it looks like
Potion's not so good right here since none of his Pokemon are injured at all.
See, these Mewtwo versus Mewtwo, and these guys are hitting each other really hard. Harrison's knocked out a Darkrai EX and a Mewtwo of Igor. He needs only 2 prizes left.
So Harrison needs to knock out 2 of the weak Pokemon, or just 1 Pokemon EX, to win the game here.
That's correct.
Igor is random receiving, looking for, once again, one of those card draw supporters. And I'm not quite sure what he drew. Looks like he's maybe got a... so he's got an Ultra Ball. He's getting rid of the Dark Energy and another Mewtwo for a
Tracheon.
Right, which is, again, something that's strong against the Psychic Pokemon.
Tracheon is particularly a Darkrai hitter, too. So we might be seeing a Pokemon catcher to bring in a Darkrai EX off of Harrison's bench.
And then a retreat to bring out...
Exactly, yeah. But really, boy, this is still an up in the air
match. Still anybody's game.
Absolutely.
So you see that's an Eviolite. Interesting that he put it on Mewtwo. Oh, so Mewtwo, it looks like he's trying to prevent his opponent from just winning the game here.
Well,
Mewtwo's the EX,
right.
and it's the EX that he's got on the bench with less health. And so he's trying to make sure that his opponent, particularly if he's hitting the bench for 30,
right.
is going to hit the Darkrai with 170 hit points instead of the Mewtwo with 100.
He also had, he also knew he was going to be playing Smeargle, so he was playing all of the eligible cards out of his hand before potentially playing a Juniper or an N,
right.
where he'd be getting rid of those cards.
So he definitely wants to play the Eviolite. It
right.
just he's chosen to do the one. He thinks here that maybe without that, his opponent Harrison's going to go after Mewtwo X and just try to knock him out and draw those last 2 prize cards for the
right.
game.
We just saw Igor play, looks like Super Scoop Up, is that right?
Igor is on a couple copies of Super Scoop Up. That's return a Pokemon and all attached cards to that Pokemon to your hand. It looks like a Super Scoop Up. That's one of those cards that's been printed several times and gets new art each time.
Right. That is definitely a Super Scoop Up. He hasn't actually pulled that card yet, he doesn't have to be the active card. He gets to choose which card he's going to pull.
So he could, for example, pick up that Mewtwo and the Eviolite. He gets him an Eviolite to put on something else.
Right. If he had energy, you would imagine he'd pick up Shaman so you can play Shaman again, because its Celebration Wind only goes into effect when Shaman gets put into play.
Right.
But without any energy on his bench Pokemon, there's really no point.
And what's that Celebration Wind do again?
It allows you to rearrange all of the energy across all your Pokemon in any way you'd like.
So that you throw a bunch of Pokemon on that Mewtwo,
right.
which does tons of damage.
He chose to put Smeargle into his hand so that he could play Mewtwo up front without having to retreat.
And that means, since he hasn't retreated, he still gets to use the game rule retreat once this turn if he decides he wants to.
But then he also has a double colorless that I thought he...
I saw double colorless in his hand. I think he's trying to decide whether or not to play it yet, and he hasn't yet played it. So that looks like the game rule retreat there.
Yep.
Through a Mewtwo.
Oh no, he played Switch. He played Switch to make that.
Switch.
Yeah.
Okay. And he is copying his
opponent. He did have a double colorless on that Mewtwo, so he's still waiting to find a reason to play that.
Looks like he's digging. Looks like he has got a game plan and he's trying to kind of put it together.
It does look like he's looking for a specific card.
I'm not sure what that plan is.
Right there, N helped him quite a bit because he has more prize cards remaining than Harrison does.
And it's not just getting him to see 4 new cards. It's also costing Harrison some cards.
Absolutely.
It's both kind of breaking up, deflecting, and causing problems for Harrison's plan.
It's
and
a disruptive card,
right.
and you'll see it in virtually every deck being played at this level.
And it's also costing him cards in general. I think Harrison had more than 2 cards in his hand, so now he's down cards overall.
Absolutely, yeah. I believe that... So Harrison needs to draw only 2 more cards. He's got...
So that was Juniper to discard his hand, draw 7.
Yep. He's got 3 energy on Mewtwo right now. He probably doesn't have enough to knock out the other Mewtwo.
Well,
I
think if he has, if he has a double colorless then he switches in the
Mewtwo.
That's because the Mewtwo EX down there's got Eviolite on it, so that's only going to be
Mewtwo EX is weak to other psychic Pokemon,
right?
So he'll do 200 damage. Right.
So he has a potential win right here if he saw what he needed off Professor Juniper.
Right. A Pokemon catcher gives Harrison the win, I believe.
He's looking at his hand.
It doesn't look like he's got it. Otherwise, I think he'd be played by now.
There's no real slow rolls here. It's if he's going to win, he's going to take home that 2,500 extra and the first place prize.
Absolutely.
And be happy about it.
Yeah. There's no reason to stall.
So looks like he's doing some math, trying to figure out how many of each copy is left in his deck, trying to figure out his odds, and make a decision. And I know a lot of players will try to run the math here, but it's complicated math. Sometimes it just comes down to your gut feeling.
And he's in a bad position because if he chooses to not attack, or even if he does take out Smeargle, he doesn't win the game because Smeargle will give him only 1 prize card.
Right. He needs to take out one of the Pokemon EXs.
And Mewtwo EX will come up and have enough energy on Mewtwo EX to knock out Harrison's own.
And Igor is on 4 prize cards. So if Igor knocks out that Mewtwo EX, he draws 2 of them, and all of a sudden they're in the same state that they're currently in, wherein one Pokemon, if it's an EX, will win the game for either player.
Exactly.
So again, this is still either player's game, very much so.
Yeah. It's
sounds good. The sound volume's good. You can see kind of he's slowing down. His hands are not quite as firm and solid.
Right.
Now is where the nervousness sets in. Because
Harrison knows he's in a tough spot, even though at first glance he looks like he's in pretty good shape. You know, he's thinking like 2 or 3 turns ahead. He knows what's coming.
But even then, any one unexpected play, and all of a sudden, he could be losing the game.
Right, absolutely.
He's thinking about it.
Right.
So it looks like he was considering retreating that Mewtwo so it does not get, knocked out by his opponent this turn.
That's correct.
Kind of throwing one of the non-EX Pokemon under the bus, if you will.
Right. And one of the things that happened was they just called time, which means that each player now gets 3 more turns and the game is over.
Okay, so we were at that time limit then.
So we're at that time limit. So at this point, if nobody takes out any Pokemon for the next few turns, Harrison will win the match.
Because he has less prize cards left, so he's knocked out more Pokemon.
Exactly.
And if, by some chance, Igor knocks out one of the EXs, they end up with 2 prize cards each?
Then I believe it's the next prize card that gets drawn is the winner.
So it comes down to kind of a sudden death.
Absolutely, yeah.
Very exciting.
There's Pokemon Catcher to bring in Mewtwo EX.
Oh, this looks like that might be the case. This is what we're talking about, where the Pokemon EX is, if he now retreats in his own Pokemon EX, he's going to be able to knock out Harrison's Mewtwo EX and draw 2 prize cards.
Right, because Mewtwo EX sitting on the bench doesn't
so
have any support cards.
Goes for the supporter, does not see any. But that's cool, he still has the 7 cards.
Professor Juniper comes in, so he's looking for a switch. He was able to retreat.
Yep.
So now
he had not
Mewtwo
retreated
EX
this turn.
Can come into play and have enough damage to knock out the Mewtwo EX. This is a close match all of a sudden.
Whoever wins is going to have earned this title.
Absolutely. I think just by being here and playing all weekend, to be at this point, they've earned it.
Igor seems very confident here. Igor is looking at his face. He doesn't seem nervous. I think he thinks he has it in the bag.
He's going to draw 2 more prize cards on this turn, and then it'll be interesting to see how. Let's see here. Yep. See how Harrison reacts here.
So that was the Mewtwo EX being knocked out. 2 prize cards for Igor.
Igor took out Harrison's Mewtwo EX. Mewtwo EX is a really strong card, but even more strong against Mewtwo EX.
Right. So what do you think we're going to... Okay, so rather than talk about it, we're seeing a non-EX Pokemon getting subbed in. That still buys Harrison time to try to win this game rather than putting one of his EX naturally vulnerable to this.
And Harrison's likely looking for a very specific card. He could be, he got that double colorless out there.
And that's a Smeargle, right? So he can, in fact, see if Igor's got a supporter in his hand, he can look for more cards.
At this point, if he has a switch plus a plus power, he gets them both. Then Mewtwo EX can come in.
So it looks like he's playing. Was that a Professor Oak?
Looks like Professor Oak. So he shuffles his hand and drawn 6.
That's what it looks like. All right. So he did not have what he needed. Now he's hoping.
You can see him talking to himself. He knows exactly what he needs right here.
So is there any way other than knocking out one of Igor's Pokemon EX that he can take this home?
I think that he has one goal in mind, and that's to knock out the Pokemon EX.
So it's switch in his Mewtwo EX.
Right.
Knock out for all that energy.
But he didn't get the cards he needed, apparently.
That is a heartbreaker.
Yeah. Last year's World Championships came down to the last turn as well. So these matches get really close at the end. The Eviolite on Mewtwo on Harrison's
really
Mewtwo,
good,
and it could play a huge factor in this hand because at the moment I don't believe Igor has the energy he needs.
I'm actually not sure.
I missed what got played just there.
It was a bit off the edge of our camera feed. There was discard. Was it maybe
Harrison looks upset.
Oh, okay. So he was looking for a card, and it's got to be in one of those last 2 prize cards. So it looks like, looks like he is taking the gamble, and it has not paid off for him. And as we were talking about this leading into this, you play with the same 60-card decks, but sometimes you don't have access to everything you need.
Absolutely. You get it's interesting that you actually get stronger the longer you play because you get those cards back into your hand. So
right,
and that did it.
Yep, we see
the Pokemon catcher and the plus power. Igor did what Harrison was trying to do, and he wins.
So, four-time Portugal national champion, one-time world champion. Very well played.
Congratulations to Igor. That was a fantastic match.
Congratulations to Harrison as well. He played that very well at the end there. It just didn't go his way.
Very similar styles.
And you cannot help but grin there. You can see that smile. That's just all the nervousness washing away. And some sympathy.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, that had to happen. Sorry.
These players will both be back next year for the World Championships, I'm sure.
It's not just the winner it's not just first place that gets an invite. It's in fact first, second, third, and fourth. Get an invite and a travel award to next year's World Championship, which is in a new, exotic, and exciting location. Okay. So it looks like switching between the TCG and the video game championships is going to take some of the expertise. So I think we're going to lose our special guest for the time being.
I'll be running a few errands before coming back to cover the video game championships in about 20 minutes from what I understand. Does that sound right?
I think about 20 minutes from now, 15 or 20 minutes.
All right. Thanks a lot.
Thanks for talking with us.